rankings, we pound for pound. UFC thrills, stills, nights get loud. Big EQP, that's how we get down.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GRP. Back at it on a Thursday, regularly scheduled, because last week we had the Wednesday special edition, considering I was gone out of town on vacation. So now I am back to normal on Thursdays. And yeah, we got some stuff to talk about. Not everything's so pleasant, but you know, the happenings around. If you haven't heard, if you saw the thumbnail in the description, I'll be talking about Cain Velasquez and his sentencing and how I feel about all that. You know, I had to represent and make sure I wore my Free Cain shirt because, yeah, that's what should happen. Is Cain should be free. But we'll talk about all that here in a couple minutes. We got March Madness in full effect. U of A playing today versus Duke, so that's going to be happening, and I got the TV on. Yeah, so I'll be not distracted, but I'll be taking a couple glimpses. So if you see me looking up a little bit, it's because I'm taking a look at the screen and probably checking the score. Perks of having an extra TV in here. So I know I got some friends out and about at a bar or something watching the game, and I'm here doing the show because that's what I do. So yeah, we're gonna get into everything here in just a minute. I gotta take a sip. Haven't had a good sip of an old-fashioned in a minute. I'm finally over my sickness for the most part. Hold on one second. I'm being told my sound is a little low. I don't know if it's just my mic or if it was the music. I'm not sure. But that's what sucks about not podcasting all the time, is that, you know, it seems like everything's good, but then you get told that you're sounding a little low. So hopefully it's not. I'm going to double check here. It seems like it's okay. So hopefully we're good. But anyway, I'm finally over my sickness. I still got a little bit of the cough, a little bit of the, you know, like having to clear my throat, and a little bit of a runny nose and stuff. But man, I'm so glad I got over it for the most part. No more bad headaches, no more feeling dizzy and nauseous. And I don't know, I had all kinds of different shit going on. So luckily for the most part, it is gone. And let me check and see. Okay. And hopefully it's fully gone and it doesn't come back. I made it on my, you know, extended weekend vacation because on Wednesday night, man, I guess I wasn't that worried when I did the show, but leading up to that Tuesday, I was not sure if I was going to make it. So luckily, oh, cool. Hey, Mom, thanks for letting me know. She says she hears loud and clear, so hopefully everything's good. But yeah, luckily I was able to get out of it. I took a lot of medicine. I was drinking hot toddies and hot tea and taking all kinds of stuff just to try to get better. I don't know if you ever done those vapor tablets in the shower, where you drop the little tablet in the shower and let the steam and the vapors come up, and that shit'll clear you up. So I was doing that. I was doing everything I could to try to get better, and luckily I made it to my vacation. So yeah, coincidentally, we have UFC Mexico happening this weekend. That's the fight night happening on Saturday, and I was just in Mexico. That's where I went on my vacation. So just a whole big week and a half of Mexican stuff. And that's fine with me. I just think it's funny and coincidental that that's where I went, and that's where the fights are happening this weekend. So I thought I had my Mexican music on here. What the hell did I do with it? Maybe, oh, there it is. No, maybe I didn't. Shit. That sucks. I was going to play it, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, other than that, you know, I didn't work much last week because of being sick. I was at work for one day out of the week. So that was pretty shitty. but I made it to my vacation. I had a good time and just relaxing. Got to go on the beach. Yeah, just had some good time with some good friends. So I'm grateful for that. And now we're back to regularly scheduled life. And that's all right. I mean, work hasn't been too bad this week. Just getting caught up. In the beginning was a little hectic, but now we're back to it, back to normal, and just getting stuff done. So looks like the game's just now starting. I thought it was going to start like half hour ago, but the game's just starting now. So we'll see how U of A does against Duke. I haven't been keeping up much because of being sick and the traveling and all that stuff. I really wasn't keeping up with March Madness, and I don't really even know what the hell. I didn't do any brackets this year. I'm slacking. I don't know what the fuck I'm thinking. I don't know what I'm doing, but I didn't do any brackets or anything like that this year, so I haven't kept up with much. But yeah, just except for the U of A games, because we were watching that in Mexico too, and when they played Oregon, and now we're hoping to have some good luck against Duke. So good luck to U of A out there and all the fans, and if you like Duke, fuck off. And I'm talking to you, Clark. Yes, because he likes to rub it in because he's an ASU fan. I don't know why, because he's stupid, but he likes to rub it in. So like he posted earlier saying, in case anybody was wondering, go Duke. And I'm like, I hate you. But that's why we give him so much shit. He makes it so easy doing stuff like that. But yeah, Clark's been on the podcast plenty of times, Mr. Golf and Glory, in case you're wondering who I'm speaking about. So make fun of him next time for being a stupid ASU fan. So that's it, though. That's about all that's been going on. Just trying to keep up with content now that I'm not sick anymore. Hopefully this weekend's events are good and we get some good fights out of it, and I can start hitting the content up again soon. And yeah, just been taking in other people's content, checking out other people's stuff, combat sports, CST, Combat Sports Today is one of the profiles and stuff that I've been checking out. One of the pages, they have some good stuff out there too. And yeah, they're always supportive, so I like to support them as well. Look like they're going live here soon too. But yeah, everyone's going over the UFC Mexico card this week, so we'll get into that right in just a few minutes. Actually, we're going to hit up some combat sports news first. So let's get into that right now. Oh, before I do that, let me give a shout out to my sponsor, Noctane Smelling Salts. I haven't done these in over, man, it's probably been like almost 2 weeks now, just because of being sick and stuff. I'm about ready. I've left them in this room. I kind of forgot to throw them in my bag. So all week long, I haven't even thought about it. Just trying to get fully over the sickness and make sure that it's gone. So now that I'm pretty much over it, let's hit these up and get ourselves a good whiff of some Noctane. Oh, there we go. I still have somewhat of congestion. So yeah, and it's been a minute since I've opened those. I was expecting that to be way more strong, but that is the most potent bottle. It might be time to re-up, but the red cap is the most potent, the black is the mid-range, and the white is the least potent. So go check that out at their website. Hit up that QR code, or click the link in the description down below. That's my sponsor for the show. Appreciate Noctane for the sponsorship and the product, because it's good. Their website is very appealing to the eye and very informative, so go check it out. Thanks, Noctane, for the sponsorship. Let's get into some combat sports news. And we're going to start with some disappointing news. If you weren't sure what was going on with this, if you just said, hey, I just saw something. I was told this a couple times this past weekend. Oh, I just saw, not this past weekend, but this past week, saying, oh, I saw some UFC fighter got like 5 years in prison for trying to kill somebody or something. Well, this has been a few years ongoing. And if you're unaware, Cain Velasquez did go after somebody in the streets with a gun and shot at them because he was basically, you know, going after them for doing bad things to his son. And he found this out, and the person that allegedly did it has had issues with this stuff in the past, apparently, at least allegations. And this happened at a daycare of all places. And so, you know, you drop your kid off somewhere and you trust that nothing bad's going to happen. And I know a lot of people have issues with doing that for the simple fact that these are the types of things that can happen because there's sick people out there. And unfortunately, his child was victimized, and it was horrific. So, you know, for that to happen to any child is just super bad. And I mean, that's like an understatement. I don't even know what else to say except for how horrible that shit is. And I don't blame Cain for what he did. It may not have been right in legal, you know, in legal proceedings and when it comes to the law. But guess what? When you find out that the person is out, even though they know that this is the person that did this, you kind of want to do something. And I can't say that I wouldn't go after somebody myself. So it would take a lot for me not to. And listen, he is a pretty mild-tempered guy. He may be a former UFC champion and was a champion in the heavyweight division, the biggest guys out there. So some of these guys are pretty scary, and he's definitely a violent man in the cage, but he does not portray himself that way outside of the cage. He's a pretty upstanding guy. He definitely always carried himself the right way, humble and soft-spoken guy, you know, and he did his thing in the cage, and he let his fist talk in the cage, and he never had any outside problems. You know, he never had any legal issues. He never had anybody alleging he was sexually assaulting them or just straight up assaulting them anywhere. He didn't ever see any of that stuff coming from Cain. And, you know, his exit from the UFC may not have been prestigious, and it may not have been the best way to go out, but, you know, he did leave the UFC and was not able to regain his championship there, but he went on to do other stuff. You know, he made a splash in some wrestling, professional wrestling of sorts. He did some lucha libre and stuff like that. And, you know, he was out doing his thing, coaching and just living his life. And then he gets faced with these kinds of things. So unfortunately, it all happened during COVID times as well. So all of the pictures of him in court and stuff like that, when he was actually in jail for everything, when they were trying to sort stuff out, he was in jail for almost a year. And then before he was released finally, and then of course we had to wait for the trial and everything. Well, finally, after prolonging everything, his sentencing finally happened. And even though he spent time in jail and he's, you know, doesn't have a previous record and all this other stuff, you know, he still got sentenced to 5 years in prison. And the unfortunate part about that is, you know, while what he did wasn't on the complete up and up, it's still, everyone understands. Like, everyone knows, you know, Dana White said it himself. What he said just made the most sense, which is a lot of people say they'll do it. Cain actually went out and did it. And, you know, yeah, it's a lapse of judgment. You know, he acted it's a knee-jerk reaction, and you know, maybe it was a moment of madness and not fully thought out, but that's the kind of shit that happens when somebody hurts your family. And again, it would take everything for me not to do the same. So yeah, he gets sentenced to 5 years in prison, and from what I understand, it sounds like time served is gonna be credited to him, and I believe it was about 1,300, or I'm sorry, let me double check because I wrote it down. 1,283 days is the time that he served already. So there's a possibility for him to get out with good, you know, with good behavior and all the other stuff like that. But just the pure fact that he got sentenced to 5 years is fucking bullshit. For somebody to, you know, he's defending a defenseless child. That's his child. You know, and while he wasn't defending him while the act was happening, oh man, there has to be some kind of, I know people can't just go out there and start chasing people around and popping off shots in the streets and stuff like that, because other people could get hurt. But the thing is, you know, Cain is that type of person that he said he knows he did wrong. The way he handled it was not correct. And he said that he takes full responsibility for what he did. He pled no contest, and he said, whatever my punishment is what I deserve for what I did. And that's a lot more than can be said for the piece of shit that did the actual crime. Because his family, and I understand, you know, when you have family, you're trying to defend the people you love or whatever, but this guy's a piece of shit for doing what he did. And I don't care what the fuck anybody says. I don't care what kind of a person he is. Otherwise, I don't care if this was a one-time mistake. Fuck that. You don't make that kind of mistake. The kind of mistake that Cain made is the kind of mistake that can be forgiven. The kind of mistake that guy made, if that's what he wants to call it, that's not a mistake. That can never be forgiven. And I hope he gets what he deserves when he goes to trial and when he goes to prison. Because we know what happens to people that hurt children in prison. So if all of that is true, let's hope for the justice that Cain tried to get. And you know, I'm not gonna hold back on that one, because I think that guy's a piece of shit, and I feel for Cain and his family. You know, now his family not only has to go through the heartache and the trauma that was brought to them by this piece of shit that did this, but and his child has to grow up with that in the back of his head. But now they have to go however long without the man of the family being there. So that's even worse. And for this person's family, I mean, of course they're gonna say stuff. Of course, you know, not everybody's just gonna abandon the guy, I guess. But you know, for someone to say something like his mother to say, she said the mother of the alleged molester feels that Cain Velasquez's punishment is far too lenient. On Monday, Velasquez was sentenced to 5 years in prison in the Santa Clara County Hall of Justice in San Jose, and after pleading no contest in August to a series of offenses, most notably attempted murder. His sentencing comes nearly, and then it keeps going, but that was just more info about what happened. But her saying that it's far too lenient, I get it. You know, he injured somebody who he was not intending to injure, because he shot the father of the man he was after. But you know, in the end, no one died, okay, for one, and for two, how do you not have some kind of empathy for what happened and for his reaction? And I understand you have to set a precedent that you can't take vigilante justice in your own hands, and you can't be that person, but fuck all that, man. So it just sucks, you know, and everybody's out there responding the same way I am, saying that this is bullshit, except for that guy's family. And there's fighter reactions all over the place, but one of the most notable ones was from Renato Moicano. He said, it's crazy that Cain Velasquez was sentenced to 5 years. The only thing he did wrong was missing the target. That goes hard. I love that shit. That's exactly the right words. The only thing he did wrong was missing the target. You know, and again, maybe that might sound insensitive to some people, but that it is unexcusable what that man did to Cain's son, and for anybody to get away with that shit is unexcusable and unacceptable. And I just can't express how much fucking rage I have for just hearing about that, and now hearing that Cain has to spend more time in jail. How about just let him time served? He got taken from his family in a critical time, and he had to stay away from them. And yes, it's due to his own actions, but you know what? He paid his time, he paid his dues, I feel. And I feel like, why not put him on probation to make sure that he doesn't do anything like that again? He doesn't have a previous record. You know, they can say whatever they want, but even the person prosecuting him is fucked. Like, I know it's their job, but fuck you too. I have sympathy and empathy for the judge in this case, because he actually showed emotion as he gave the sentencing. He showed emotion because I feel like he felt like it was wrong to do that, but it was what he had to do. And that I get a little bit, and again, I guess on the prosecutor's part, they have to do their job too. And I understand that to a certain extent, but just to somebody like Cain, man, the evidence is all there of how good of a guy he is, and what he's done with his life since he got released from prison to await his trial and sentencing. He's just become a different man, and an even better man. So for that not to hold any, maybe it did hold some kind of weight in the sentencing. I guess we have to be grateful that he didn't get 25 to life. The prosecution was seeking like 30 years to life for the attempted murder charge, and it's like, come on, man. There's people that have killed people out there that have been released within 6 to 10 years, and you're looking for 30 to life? Get the fuck out of here. This isn't just because somebody stole your car or because somebody sucker punched you in the street. This is for a reason that no one should ever have to live through. So fuck these people. And I hope that Cain is okay in there. It sounds like nobody fucked with him while he was in there before, and I don't know how anybody could, but him being the guy that he is, I'm sure he's able to hold his own and not have to even worry about anything while he's in there. And I hope that his family is okay. I hope that he's at peace with things, and that things can get pushed forward faster than we think, and allow him to get out a lot sooner than he's set to be in there. Probation, who cares? Give him house arrest or something, but why take him away from his family after all this? That's the main point, and that's what I wanted to get to, and that's what I wanted to talk about. And back when all this was going down and happening, I spoke of all of it before, and I bought the shirt and I wore it, and I had to bust it back out and wear it again, because everything was great, seeing him get signed with the GFL as a manager and a coach and all this other stuff, and things just seem to be going so great for him, and then it has to turn around and turn into this, while we were just hoping that maybe he gets time served and that's it, and like probation and stuff. I can understand all that, but to have to put him back in prison is horrible. So free Cain. I will stay on that, and that's how I feel about it. And if you have any kind of, if you feel any differently about it, yeah, just go away. I don't even want to hear it. I hate to be that stern and straightforward about it, but at the same time, I don't care. I feel like Cain's one of those people that should never have to go through this shit. His child should never, ever, ever have had to go through this, or ever have to go through any of it again. And for him to not have his father present because he simply tried to defend him is complete bullshit. So I hope his family's good, and I hope that Cain is good, and I hope everything turns out for the best, and things go a lot quicker than it seems like he's gonna have to stay in there. So let's hope for the best for him, and just much love out there to the Velasquez family and everybody involved. And that's it. I just had to get that out there, and I wanted to get it out there first because it's a little bit sad knowing that he has to go back. But I also just wanted to express all of my feelings and thoughts about it and get it all out there before we get into everything else. Cheers to Cain. And shout out to Renato Moicano for that great tweet that he put out there too. And there was a lot of other supportive stuff being posted. And of course, everybody in the fight game is behind Cain for sure. So now let's get into some more silly stuff. But yeah, we'll turn it around a little bit here. KSI versus Dillon Danis, supposed to be going down this weekend. Misfits Boxing, but it's not. unfortunately, we don't get to see Dillon Danis get beat again, because I felt that that was going to be what happened. KSI is not nearly Jake Paul when it comes to boxing, but he's close to the level of Logan, I feel like. And Logan beat Danis easily, and I feel like he would have more than likely beat Danis pretty handily as well. But it is not happening now. This was supposed to go down this weekend, and let's find out why it's not happening. KSI posted this video, so we'll go ahead and listen to what he had to say here. Give me 1 second. Make sure I have stuff here. There it is. All right.
Hey everyone, I'm gonna try and make this quick. Me versus Danis, it's just not gonna happen March 29th, man. I've tried my hardest, but my body has legit just given up. I'm currently in bed, taking antibiotics, trying to recover, but I'm struggling. I'm coughing up greenish yellow shit all the
I mean, I feel that because I was just sick for a while. Today makes pretty much an entire week, but it didn't last. All of it didn't last that long for me, thank God. He's got the nose strip on. I don't know if that was for effect or because it's actually helping him. Listen, I wear him to sleep, but not in a video. I thought it was pretty funny that he's wearing it in this video, but he does sound really congested. So let's finish what he's saying.
time. My sinuses are hurting to the point where I need ibuprofen every day. The tension headaches right here that I'm getting are more painful than you can imagine. I'm using Sudafed daily. I've tried sparring and training and my body just feels weak. My stamina is just falling off a cliff. I can't even taste right now or smell. Basically, I'm fucked. I've been ill for almost 3 weeks and it's just not got better. You know, I've had doctors come around to try and decipher what is going on. And honestly, I've never been this ill for this long in my life and I hate it. I feel useless and it's depressing. I feel like I've let so many people down.
So there it is. So basically he got sick. And I mean, seems like everyone's getting sick right now. So I don't know. I mean, of course if he's feeling that bad and that's everything going on with him, of course he's not going to fight, because that just puts him at risk of getting beat by somebody like Dillon Danis, who's never going to let that shit down. And I wouldn't want to step in there not at 100%, or at least close to 100%. And it sounds like he's way less than 100%, obviously, being that sick for that long. So unfortunately, we don't get to see the event happen this weekend. Don't know how big the event was going to be. Didn't hear much about it except for the press conference where he slapped the shit out of him. KSI slapped Dillon. So I was just looking forward to seeing what would happen because of those antics and everything else, all the lead up. But unfortunately, we're not getting that fight. It is what it is. Whether they reschedule it or not, who knows? But Dillon Danis has a fight coming up with GFL. Here in maybe April. I don't remember for sure when his fight was scheduled, but he's supposedly fighting Tony Ferguson in the GFL. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if he gets his ass whooped over there, because Dillon Danis has not fought in a few years in MMA. So we'll see what he has to show and how much training he's actually been doing when he gets this fight in the GFL against Tony Ferguson. It should be a good fight. I feel like I think that's a great fight for Tony to show off his skills and not be not have the threat of that huge knockout that he suffered quite a few times in the last few fights of his UFC career. So we'll see what happens with that. And that's it for Combat Sports News for now. Let's get to the recap of UFC London that happened last weekend. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady went down last Saturday. I couldn't really watch it because ESPN Plus doesn't really work in Mexico, and no one had it playing, so that was a damn shame. I was keeping up with social media though, trying to make sure I kept up with who the winners were and stuff like that in the midst of having fun and having a good time on vacation. But it was tough because usually I can at least put it on and set my phone down and kind of glance over at it. Couldn't even do that. So that was unfortunate, but I was having fun, so no big deal. I watched all the highlights and stuff. I didn't really get a chance to go through the entire fights from last weekend, but it seemed like a a pretty mediocre card, unfortunately. A lot of times in London, those cards go off because, you know, the London crowd is ready to go. They got, you know, they're hyped for their fighters and all that, and especially having somebody like Leon Edwards headlining, you would think that there'd be a lot more excitement around the card, but it seems like everybody was just kind of flat. The vibes weren't there, the atmosphere wasn't there, and the fighters didn't really show up that much. There was so many fucking decisions, it was insane. If I look right now, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of the 13 fights were decisions. That's a lot of fucking decisions, and we know what happens when all the fights go to decision. It tends to be pretty fucking boring. You need to have a lot of wars in order to have great fights that go with that many going to decision, and you're just never gonna have that many great fights all in a row. So oh man, I was disappointed because there was a lot of fights that had a lot of good potential for being great fights on this card, and it just did not come through. So that was unfortunate, and that made for a mediocre event. And you know, we talk about the Apex events being shitty, and so when they finally get out of the Apex and they go to somewhere like London in the O2 Arena, you think, oh shit, this is gonna be good. We're gonna have a good time, and everything's gonna go well. And yeah, it didn't really come through. So we start with Guram Kutateladze versus Cain Fernandez. And this was the first fight of the night. As you can see, Guram got bloodied up a little bit, and he had some nasty marks on his leg from the leg kicks coming from Fernandez. But for the first fight of the night, of course, we got a unanimous decision. With all these decisions, you know how many of these are gonna we're gonna talk about here. So we're just gonna go through them all real quick, but here's the scorecard. Unanimous decision win for Cain Fernandez in the lightweight division. All the scorecards were 30-27, complete domination for him, even though it may not have been the most exciting fight. And that brings us over to Colin Lochrain versus Nathan Fletcher. This one looked like it had a little more action. Didn't hear a whole lot about this fight, but we had a split decision here, so a little bit of a closer fight, with Colin Lochrain getting the win for Ireland in the men's bantamweight division for the second fight of the night. Split decision win for him there. Here's your scorecard, and it looked like let's see, 29-28 across the board, with two of the judges giving it to Lochrain for the split decision win in that one. And that leads us to the first finish of the night, and probably one of the most exciting fights of the night. I was fucking hyped when I saw this fight, the highlights from this fight, because of course it's in the prelims, and ESPN MMA posted the actual finish, and I was like, holy shit, because I'm thinking Shauna Bannon got knocked the fuck out with this head kick, but Pooja Tomar, the first Indian woman in the UFC, landed this crazy left high kick to Shauna Bannon's head and dropped her. And as you can tell in that picture up top, that shit was landed flush on the chin, and I don't know how she survived it, but she started getting some ground and pound landed on her on the ground, but she scrambled and she made her way into a great position to turn it around on Pooja Tomar and wind up getting the armbar submission for a win. After getting head kicked and knocked down, everyone was like, fuck this, it's over. There's no way she's surviving that. And she scrambles and gets the armbar out of nowhere to get the win. That was a hell of a fight. That was a hell of a way to turn stuff around. And all I could think of was, hopefully, you know, everything turned around from there. And instead, it didn't, because we got so many more. Hold on, I'm just checking to make sure that I'm not missing something there. Okay. So yeah, we got so many more decisions after this. You know, the women putting on yet again another crazy exciting fight after last weekend's not last weekend, but the weekend before, after me talking a bunch of shit about the women's division being boring and just kind of not really having stars or exciting fighters, they came back with two crazy knockout wins in the beginning of the card. And again, on this card, the women show out with this crazy head kick, and then Shauna Bannon turning it around and getting the armbar finish. So that was exciting. That was a great way to liven things up over there at the O2 Arena in London. And then we turned it around and went back to some decisions. And that starts with Christian Leroy Duncan against Andrei Pulev in the men's middleweight division. As you can see, Christian Leroy Duncan lands some good strikes here with that big left and then the spinning back elbow. And he winds up pulling off the win by unanimous decision over Pulev. There's your scorecard there. 30-27s across the board. Unanimous decision win for CLD. He gets the win in the middleweight division. And we go over to Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin, and everyone was high on Mick Parkin. Yet again, another undefeated fighter getting that O taken from him. So many fighters this year have just not been able to keep their undefeated records. Mick Parkin being one of them. Winds up suffering a loss to Marcin Tybura by unanimous decision as well. Tybura is one of those guys too that you just don't know what you're gonna get out of him when he gets into the fight, because he can either look really good or really bad. There's not much in between. It's either he goes down fast or he gets a win, and this time he got a win. So Marcin Tybura in the heavyweight division gets the unanimous decision win over Mick Parkin. That was 29-28 across the board, so not a fully dominant fight there, but he gets the win. And that brings us over to Loner Kavanaugh versus Felipe Dos Santos. The Irish, well, Kavanaugh's an Irish name, but it looks like he reps somebody else. What is this flag? Damn it. Affiliation, Great Britain top team, fighting out of London, England. So yeah, this is kind of a confusing guy, but he, being undefeated, kept that undefeated record, moves to 9-0 with the win over Felipe Dos Santos in the men's flyweight division. Yes, flyweight division, 125. Unanimous decision win for him there. There's your scorecard for that one. 29-28 across the board with that unanimous decision win for Kavanaugh over Dos Santos. And that brings us to the bloody fight of the night with this nasty cut coming from Chris Padilla. Yeah, he got a nice little present from Jai Herbert. You can see how nasty and crazy big that gash is on his head above his eyebrow. But he still pulls off the win. Is a split decision win, so a hard-fought fight, obviously, with the blood and the cut. But you can see him landing a good elbow up there on the top picture. And then we have a little more of a bloody picture here coming from Padilla before he got cleaned up. With his upper lip looks pretty swollen as well. But man, that cut is nasty. Lots of blood. There's your scorecard. He gets a split decision win over Jai Herbert in the men's lightweight division for that fight. And that rounds off the prelims and brings us over to the first fight of the main card. Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charrier. And, you know, Charrier is one of those guys that everyone was thinking was going to show out on this card being in London. And, you know, he's French, but he's one of those guys that is pretty exciting fighter. And it seemed like he was going to, you know, be ready to do well in this fight. But unfortunately, he did not get the win. Nathaniel Wood gets the unanimous decision win in the men's featherweight division here. And you can see, where's the score? Why did I lose my spot? There it is. There's your scorecard. 30-27s across the board. So Nathaniel Wood with a pretty decisive win over Morgan Charrier in the the featherweight division. Next up was Chris Duncan versus Jordan Vucenic, I believe. Tatted up Vucenic. He looks so, his chest is fucking so filled and just dark. In his pictures, it's like, holy shit. You see his back and you're like, hey, you're missing some back there, because that front looks crazy. But Duncan has a lot of tats as well, so this is like the tattoo fight. But this was finally another finish, because Chris Duncan was able to get this submission by guillotine in the second round of this fight after throwing Vucenic down, as you can see in that lower picture. And then he's able to turn around and get that submission by guillotine and get the win in the men's lightweight division. Brings us over to another women's fight, unfortunately, and another submission. So let's see, that makes for three of the four finishes. Actually, all the finishes were by submission. There was no KO or TKO wins on this card, which is crazy. Even with the blood in that fight with Padilla, still, and the head kick with Tomar, but yet still no KO TKO wins for anybody. This was Molly McCann versus Alexia Thainara. Not sure exactly which way. I've heard it said both ways. In the women's strawweight division, unfortunately for Molly McCann, who's, you know, pretty much a fan favorite, she's unable to get it done. I have some different music and that shit sounded pretty fucking creepy right now. I made some other music for the background just to change it up a little bit, and I guess I haven't listened to every single song all the way through. It's all obviously none of it's copyright written or nothing like that. It's all, you know, free music I can use, but I hadn't listened to everything all the way through, so that sounds in the background threw me off a little bit. But Alexia Thainara makes her UFC debut and gets a big win over fan favorite Molly McCann. You know, she doesn't have the best record in the UFC, but she is, like I said, a fan favorite, and there's always a lot of hype around her. She is fun to watch fight, but unfortunately, she's not able to get it done. She gets rear naked choked, a submission in the first round versus Thainara, and then we get surprised because Molly, after getting subbed right here, there wasn't much she could do in this one. She wasn't able to defend, and Thainara sunk that choke in. But after the fight, we got surprised by Molly McCann retiring with a 14-8 record overall. Let me check her record in the UFC, because it wasn't the best record. You know, she had a few losses, 7-7, so she had a 500 record in the UFC, which is kind of unfortunate because she was a fun fighter to watch. You know, she always brought a lot of just character to the fights and stuff. She's a character herself. Paddy Pimblett's like best friend, and he was in the crowd, had some tears in his eyes as he watched her put her gloves in the center of the cage and just retire from fighting. And I mean, I get it. You know, she just hasn't seemed to be putting together a lot of wins. She hasn't had a lot of success. But I feel like being as young as she is, I feel like maybe she could have, maybe worked a little bit outside of the UFC and came back. She's 34, so I guess she's not that young. But at the same time, that's still not that old. You know what I mean? A lot of fighters are in their prime still at age 34. When you get to about 38 and heading to 40 is when, it gets a little tough. 37, 38. But, I feel like she still probably had a couple years in her. Unfortunately, she didn't feel that way. And I can understand the frustration of not being able to be successful or pull out any wins there. So she decided to lay the gloves down and retire. And, she got a decent send off. And, good luck to Molly and whatever she does from this point on, and hopefully she has some success in whatever she chooses to do now that she's not fighting anymore. Unfortunate for her to get the loss and go out that way, but hopefully at least she didn't get knocked out. You know, it sucks when people get knocked out cold and then retire after that and don't get a chance to do anything to change that. So good luck to Molly and whatever else she does in her life. Thanks for all the memories and the good fights, Molly McCann. Meatball Molly, done with the UFC and done with fighting. Let's move on to Kevin Holland, Mr. Big Mouth himself, versus Gunnar Nelson. This was an interesting fight. This was one of those that I was kind of wondering which way it was going to go, because you never know what you're going to get when it comes to Kevin Holland. And Gunnar Nelson hadn't fought in a while. I think he was off for almost 2 years or something like that. But so we were kind of wondering what we were going to get with this fight. By the way, Alexia Tainara gets a performance of the night bonus for that submission over Molly McCann. Shauna Bannon also got a performance of the night bonus for that submission she got over Pooja Tomar, which both well deserved, I feel. And then Kevin Holland winds up getting a win here by unanimous decision over Gunnar Nelson. I mean, it was a back and forth fight, but you know, Kevin Holland just came out to fight this time, instead of just kind of folding like he has in the recent past. Unfortunately, he hadn't looked so good in his past couple fights. Let's see, he was coming off of a 2-fight losing streak with losses to Roman Dolidze and RDR Rainier de Ritter. That Dolidze fight was when he got that rib injury, which it seemed like he got hit in the rib. You know, I get it, he was injured or whatever, but it seemed like he just kind of was like, you know what, I don't care, I'm done. Like, screw this fight today. It seemed like he didn't really want to be in there in the first place. So he lasted the first round, had the rib injury, couldn't make it out for the second round, and they called the fight there. So he gets that loss. And then he lost by rear naked choke to RDR in his debut in the UFC. And then before that, he had 2 losses in a row before his 1 win mixed in there to Mikhail Zaitchuk, where he got an armbar submission. And he lost to Michael Venom Page and Jack Della Maddalena. So, I mean, he loses to, you know, big names, but like I said, you don't know what you're going to get with Kevin Holland. And he's always got some antics, right? You see him here holding on to Gunnar Nelson's arm with his legs. I guess him and Gunnar had a little back and forth discussion while that was happening, and Kevin was like, dude, how the hell are you doing this? How are you just standing up with me holding onto your arm? Gunnar's just like, I don't know, I'm just doing it. So pretty funny, still entertaining. Kevin Holland, definitely entertaining to watch. Always has some crazy antics going on, but and you know, Gunnar, he's so damn good on the ground. You know, if you go get on the ground with him, you got to be careful. But Kevin Holland was able to handle it, and there was a bit of a little controversy at the end of one of the rounds, because he landed, as you can see in that top picture, he landed a strike kind of at the bell / after the bell. So some people were a little pissed off about that one, but didn't seem like Gunnar was too worried about it. You could see some more ground and pound where he landed a flush shot there on Gunnar Nelson on the ground in that bottom picture. But yeah, Kevin Holland gets the unanimous decision win over Gunnar. Wasn't complete domination, but you know, he gets 29-28 across the board. Unanimous decision win for him there in the welterweight division. And that brings us to the co-main, which I was super excited for, thinking it was going to be a great one. Carlos Ulberg versus Jan Blachowicz. And because Carlos Ulberg comes out swinging, ready to go, and definitely is an exciting fighter. And we've seen Jan get some big knockouts and stuff like that. But we've also seen Jan in some fights where it's a little lackluster and a little, this is that song, I guess, in the background that takes forever to loop back and start up again. I need to edit that so that way it loops and starts right up again, because I always think that my music just completely died. Now you can hear it starting again. Always throws me off. I need to remember to edit that one. But anyway, so yeah, Carlos Ulberg versus Jan Blachowicz. Not as great of a fight as we thought it was going to be. Like I said, Jan tends to kind of play chess and get into a stalemate with his opponents at times. He's had those draws and stuff with like Ankalaev and shit like that. And it turns out to be kind of just, I hate to say boring, but kind of a boring fight, you know? And Carlos Ulberg maybe played it a little safe, or just recognized the talent and skills of Blachowicz. So, you know, was a little more strategic in this fight. And it wound up going to a unanimous decision win for Carlos Ulberg. I mean, at least he keeps his win streak going. I believe that makes it 8 wins in a row for him. So pretty damn good win streak going on for him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 wins. I mean, he's got some wins over other big names besides Jan, Volkan Ozdemir, Alonzo Menefield, Ihor Pretoria, just to name a few. So he's got on an 8-win fight streak. You know, this probably doesn't do much for him except for the name, because he beat Jan, and Jan's always been up there at the top of the, you know, the division and in contention of sorts. But yeah, light heavyweight division, Carlos Ulberg gets a unanimous decision win over Jan Blachowicz. We'll see what's up next for him. 29-28 across the board for Carlos Ulberg in that one. We'll see what's up next for him. I'm not sure they're going to give him anything crazy considering how this fight went, but he did get the win over a big name, so got to give him credit for that one. That brings us to the main event, Sean Brady versus Leon Edwards. And holy shit, did Sean Brady look good in this fight. I mean, he brought his fucking A game in this one. 100%. His boxing was crisp and clean. You know, when I was watching some of the beginning, you know, in the first round and stuff, he was putting together some great combinations, crisp boxing. Like, that's what he's known for. That's what he's good at. And he fucking showed it off. I heard Bisbing talking about Leon looking quick, looking fast. But Leon just gets in this mode where he just kind of just stalls out and doesn't seem to like put together combinations, doesn't seem to work angles, doesn't seem to find the strategic ways to get in on somebody and turn the fight around. So Brady took advantage, and Brady did everything he could, and he did it all correctly, because he just looked real sharp in this fight. And he's able to submit Leon Edwards in the 4th round. And it looked like at the end of the 3rd that Leon was just it seemed like at the end of every round, from what I understood, Leon just seemed defeated. You know, he gets that little kid look on his face where he walks away kind of like he's kicking a can, just like, yeah, well, I don't know, man, I'm just not playing well today. Like if he's in a baseball game going out to right field, like, yep, they put me in right field because I suck today and I don't know what else to do, so I'm just here. That's kind of how he gets, and it's strange. You know, you hear his corners trying to hype him up. You know, that's the famous thing that happened in the Usman fight where he got that last minute head kick knockout. You know, everyone talked about how lucky that was, but his corner gave a hell of a speech. And you know, Leon Edwards' nickname is Rocky, and that was the Rocky speech of all speeches. And when you watch the highlights of that and the edits of people putting that together and with the Rocky music in the background, it's fucking amazing. But you know, even Sean Brady was like, hey, you know, his corner was trying to give him those fucking stupid speeches that they think is gonna hype him up, and he still couldn't get up and do anything. And Sean Brady was very vocal about how he smoked Leon Edwards, and he talked about how Bilal didn't do that to Leon. He made Leon look bad. Bilal just beat him. So and Sean finished him. The first time that Leon's been finished by submission, or if at all ever, I think. I'm not sure that he's ever been finished in a fight. Let me see. He's got 4 losses. There's one by unanimous decision to Bilal, one by decision to Usman, one by decision to Silva. So, yeah, in his UFC career, he's never been finished. It's all been decision losses until now. Sean Brady being the first one in the UFC to finish him by submission or finish him at all. So that's a hell of a feat for Sean Brady. He gets a performance of the night bonus there, and well deserved. And shit, Sean Brady's up there, man. He's a fight away, if not ready for that title. And he gets it done for the Philly boys in this fight. And we got Joe Pyfer coming up in this next fight night on Saturday, looking to continue that. They're like training partners and stuff like that, and he's looking to get a big win like Sean Brady just pulled out over Leon Edwards. So again, at the O2 Arena, man, the crowd was flat, and it was and the fighters didn't help change that because they weren't very successful. I think 2 out of 6 from the area lost, or only 2 got wins out of some shit like that. I don't even remember what the stat was, but very low win percentage for the local area fighters in London last weekend. So that wraps it up for UFC London. Let's move over to this weekend's fight card in Mexico City. UFC Mexico. Look at this, see, I got the Mexican flag with the confetti going in the background. I got the header with the UFC Mexico with the flag on it. But yet the UFC decided to put out a poster that has nothing to do with Mexico. Not even the colors. It's fucking like pink and purple, which, no hate. I'm not saying I hate it. I don't think it's a bad poster. It's just a bad read. It's a good poster for a different event. They should have done more of a Mexican theme, Mexican style. I mean, it's UFC Mexico. Why the fuck are we doing this? Like UFC London last week had at least a poster that was neutral, kind of. Yeah, with this one, it's like, why do you put these colors with a Mexico event? It makes fucking no sense. It's a softball throw. It's a beach ball being thrown at you to just hit it out of the park. To put the red, white, and green on there. Like, what are we doing? I don't know. It's fucking strange. It's not a bad poster. It's just not a good one for this event. But anyway, we got Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg in the main event for this one. I feel like this should be a good fight because we know Brandon Moreno's the most exciting fighter in the men's flyweight division, and Steve Erceg has had some great fights, almost beating Pantoja, making that one stupid mistake where he tried to take him down, and that's what cost him the fight in the 5th round when he fought for that title. And then unfortunately came back, fought Kai Kara France, and lost that one as well. But I don't feel like his stock lost too much. I mean, a lot of people hate on him, fraud check and all this other bullshit, but I still think he's got some good fight in him. And I feel like even though he was surprised to get another main event after losing 2 like that, I still think he's got some good fight in him, and I think he's going to give Brandon Moreno a really good fight, considering Moreno's had wars with Figgy and Pantoja, and with Erceg giving Pantoja as great of a fight as he gave him, I feel like this is going to be a good one for the main event here. I don't think we're going to be disappointed in this one, but it is happening in Mexico City, which is famously known for bad cardio because of the what the fuck am I thinking? The elevation and stuff like that. We unfortunately, like we spoke about Cain earlier, and I hate to talk about his bad parts of his fighting. When he fought Verdum in Mexico City, he lost because cardio Cain at sea level is a whole different story from cardio Cain in elevation. There is no cardio Cain in elevation. He did not prep right for that fight, and then he lost his title due to that. So it's unfortunate, but that's what happens when you get to elevation, and you think Mexico City, you're not really thinking about that, but it is something to keep in the back of your head when it comes to fighting in places like that. So let's check out the prelims of this event. Starting at the bottom, we have Markel Medeiros versus Austin Hubbard. Austin Hubbard being from that Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler season of The Ultimate Fighter. That's in the men's lightweight division. Medeiros is 9-1. Austin Hubbard is 17-8. That's your first fight of the night in the lightweight division. Then you move over to Jamal Emmers versus Gabriel Miranda in the men's bantamweight division. I'm sorry, featherweight division. Jamal Emmers is 20-8 versus Miranda, who's 17-7. And then you got Rafa Garcia versus Vince Pichel from Hell Pichel. Let's see how he comes out, because you never know what you're going to get with him either. He's had a lot of great fights in the past. Oh my gosh, man. The fucking Duke is just draining shit right now. It's 42-48. Let's go. Fucking U of A needs to step it up. It was pretty close there for a minute, but they just pulled away right now at halftime. God damn it. Yeah, shit. All right, I gotta stop watching that. So yeah, Rafa Garcia versus Vince Pichel has potential. With Pichel, you know, he either gets knocked out or knocks people out. I think it's been a minute since he's fought. Let me double check that. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, but his last fight was May of last year, so it hasn't been that long. But he lost to Ismael Bonfim, so that's a tough fight. Before that, Marco Madsen, both by unanimous decision. Before that, he was on a 3-fight win streak, all by decision as well. So shit, maybe I lied. But fuck, so many decisions. Vince Pichel is one of those guys that you think is gonna come out and wreck shit, and it's just not always true. Rafa Garcia, this is your first Mexican native fighting on the card in the prelims. He's coming off a loss to Grant Dawson in October of last year. Before that, he was on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Clay Guida and Mahashate Haizar. So we'll see what this fight brings us. We get the first women's fight of the night with another Mexican native on there, Lupi Godinez versus Julia Pilastri. 13-4 for Pilastri. Godinez is 12-5. That's in the women's strawweight division. Godinez is always a fun fight to watch, so we'll see what she brings for the hometown crowd here in this fight. Next set of prelims, we got C-Rod Christian Rodriguez versus Melquizel Costa. 22-7 for Costa, 12-2 for Rodriguez. C-Rod is always fun to watch, so let's hope for a good one here. Costa's that guy with the crazy hair and the what is it called, vitiligo, right? When they have the pigment, you know, that they don't have pigment in certain parts of their body, I believe. So he kind of stands out, especially with that hair too. But what is happening? My phone is just going nuts. Oh, okay. Thought something was going on. So yeah, what was I at? Oh, Costa's on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Andre Fili and Shalian Nerdenbeek. And then C-Rod is coming off a win as well, I believe. Yeah, coming off a win over Austin Bashi in January of this year. So it hasn't been that long since he fought. So that should be a good fight there. And then we got Jose Medina versus Atiba Gautier in the men's middleweight division. 6-1 for Gautier, 11-4 for Medina. And then finishing off the prelims, we got Edgar Chairez versus CJ Vergara. Man, this is going to be a damn good fight here. Both these guys really exciting fighters, and definitely high paced in the men's flyweight division. This is definitely a good fight to end the prelims, moving into the main card. So it's a good way to end those prelims in the Mexico City card. Let's get to the main card, starting with Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Kevin Borjas. 25 years old for Ronaldo Rodriguez, 17-2 overall, 2-0 in the UFC, 7-0 by KO TKO, 5-0 by sub, 4-2 by decision. He's on a 2-fight win streak. And then we got Borjas, who's 9-3 overall, 0-2 in the UFC. So that's crazy. We got a 2-0 guy versus an 0-2 guy. Weird matchup. 8-1 KO TKOs, 0-1 by sub, and 1-1 by decision. Definitely better in pretty much all categories for Rodriguez here. It's a flyweight division fight. Rodriguez has not been submitted or KO TKO'd ever, so he's only lost by decision. He is on a 2-fight win streak, obviously, because he's 2-0 in the UFC, but he's actually 7-fight win streak overall in other, organizations outside of the UFC. His 2 fights in the UFC were Dennis Bondar, who he beat by rear naked choke, and then Ode Osborne, who he beat on the Noche UFC card by unanimous decision in September of last year. And then we got I lost my spot. We got Borjas, who is 0-2 in the UFC, and his 2 losses are to Alessandro Costa and Joshua Van. Joshua Van's tough, so I can't really say much about that one. That was his debut fight in the UFC. But yeah, so he's looking to get his first win in the UFC or possibly get cut, because 3 losses in a row is not good in the UFC, especially when those are your only 3 fights. But I forgot his name. Rodriguez. It's a Mexico card. Everything ends with an S, including my last name. But Philip Kodak, hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? Thanks for joining in. Appreciate you. But yeah, I feel like this should be a good one with Rodriguez. I mean, his fight was pretty fun to watch against Ode Osborne in the Sphere card, and then Borjas is going to be fighting to kind of stay in the UFC with that 0-2 record. He's looking to get that win, and he's probably pretty hungry for it, hopefully, for his sake. So let's see what that fight brings us. And that moves us over to Ronaldo Rodriguez. Jesus, I'm just saying the same damn names again. David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. Martinez 11-1 overall, making his UFC debut. 9-0 in KO TKOs. Nothing in that submission column. 2-1 by decision. It's on a 7-fight win streak outside of the UFC. So coming in with a pretty good win streak to the UFC, making his debut versus Simon Oliveira, 18-5 overall, 0-2 in the UFC. So another guy looking for his first win in the UFC. Probably pretty hungry. Probably not wanting a guy making his debut to beat him for his 3rd loss in a row. So let's see if he can get that first win. Look at that submission column, 11-0. So with Martinez not having any wins or losses in that submission column, but the KO TKOs, he's going to be headhunting, and Oliveira's dangerous on the ground, it looks like. But he's got 5 wins by KO TKO and only 1 loss there. So not a great record in decisions. 2-4 for him, obviously on a 2-fight losing streak because he's 0-2 in the UFC. And those losses are to Daniel Marcos and Tony Gravely. 1 by unanimous decision, 1 by TKO. That was his only TKO loss. So we'll see what these guys have for us. One coming in on a debut from the Contender Series, and then Oliveira coming from the Contender Series as well, but he's 0-2 in the UFC, so that's always tough way to start. So he's going to be hungry for that first win, and we'll see if he can get it. Let's move over to the young man, Raul Rosas Jr., Mr. Chi Wee Wees. I'm not doing it the way he does. That shit is obnoxious, but funny. I got to give him credit. I heard him talking about it on a podcast the other day, how it's getting a little bit tiresome, I guess. But he's got merch and everything, so he probably shouldn't say that too much. That's what he's known for. It's either, I hate to say it, but it's either the funny memes that they put online from him because of his facial structure, or it's the Chi-Wee-Wees. Either way, stick to what you're known for, bro. That's probably better off for you, and keep fucking winning. But I mean, he's definitely promising. He's only got the 1 loss in the UFC and 1 loss overall. 2-0 by KO TKO, 6-0 by sub, and that 1 loss being by decision there. And he's also got 2 wins by decision. He's on a 3-fight win streak, facing Vince Morales, 16-9 overall. Pretty big difference in age there. 34 years old for Morales, 20 for Raul Rosas. As you remember, he got signed when he was 18. So Morales is on a 2-fight losing streak. 3-7 in the UFC. 7-1 by KO TKO, 5-2 by sub, and 4-6 by decision. I mean, Rosas looks good in all of these categories over Morales. Obviously, he doesn't have as much experience, but he's not that far off. His everything else is pretty much better though, including that win streak over Morales' loss streak or losing streak that he's on. Let's take a look at Raul Rosas. That 3-fight win streak, he's got wins over, I don't even know what that name is, and I'm not even gonna try to say it because that doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, that was in that fight at the Sphere where he got the win there. I'm not gonna say it, but he also has a win over Ricky Tercios and Terrence Mitchell. Both of those, actually, Mitchell was a TKO win there. Rear naked choke over Ricky Tercios, and then a unanimous decision win in his last fight. And then you got Morales with the 2 losses in a row. 3-7 in the UFC. His 2 losses were to Elijah Smith and Taylor Lapilus. I guess so. He's had a little bit of a break in between his fights in the UFC. His other fights were back in 2022, so he made his way back to the UFC after about a year being out. His 2 wins in the UFC are over Luis Smoka and Draco Rodriguez and Amin Zahabi. So he's got one decent win in there. So he's going to be looking to spoil the youngins' fight streak. I mean, win streak here. Trying to get a win over Raul Rosas. But I'm not sure about that one because Rosas is on that win streak for a reason. And I feel like he's going to be looking to, elevate his skills and continue to get better. So when it comes down to it, I mean, he's going to be hungry for a win, especially in Mexico City, because he definitely takes pride in his heritage. So he's always wearing, the flag and the colors and stuff. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be hungry to get a big win out here on this card over Vince Morales. Moving on to one of the fights I'm excited about, Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Because, I mean, Joe Pyfer has that one loss that everyone fucking downed on him for, calling for fraud checks and all this other shit. But, I mean, come on, man. It's one loss. Like, just because Dana White was talking him up saying, beat Joe Pyfer, it doesn't mean that he's not allowed to lose. So, yeah, I'm looking to see. I like Kelvin. That's the problem here. I like both these guys a lot. I feel like Kelvin has just been so up and down all the time. He's never been KO'd or TKO'd. You can see that there, 5-0. He's lost by submission before 3 times. Has 5 wins there though. Winning record in all those categories. 8-6 by decision. 13-9 UFC record. He's coming off a win. And I mean, his UFC record is more fights than Joe Pyfer's entire career. Pyfer's 13-3, 4-1 in the UFC, 9-1 by KO TKO, 3-1 by sub, 1-1 by decision. He's also coming off a win. So, I mean, I'm torn here because I like Kelvin. He's an Arizona guy, and I've just followed his career for quite a while. Met him a couple times. He's a cool dude, and but Joe Pyfer's just one of those guys that I like a lot. He's one of those fighters that appeals to me, and the way that he fights, and just one of those guys that you root for. It's hard. I don't know how else to explain it. He's just one of those guys that I root for. So this is a tough one for me to pick, but I feel like it's going to be a good fight. Gastelum's got to be pretty... Oh, shit. What did I do? Gastelum's got to be pretty hungry for a win here to keep that, keeping the win column, because he's been so streaky. He's got his last win was against Daniel Rodriguez. Before that, he lost to Sean Brady, who just got that big win last weekend. So as you can see, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win, loss, 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 win, win. He's just so streaky. He went down to 170 for a while and then back up. Now he's back up here at the middleweight division, fighting Joe Pyfer. And Joe Pyfer is coming off a win over Marc-Andre Barrio. That one loss he had was by unanimous decision, by the way, to Jack Hermanson. Everyone was talking shit about him after that just because of all the hype that, you know, Dana White put on him and stuff like that. But I don't blame him. You know, Jack Hermanson's not the easiest opponent ever, and Joe Pyfer still doesn't have that. I mean, he doesn't have that many fights. It's like, come on. He's a great fighter. He's got a lot of potential, and I see him being able to go on a good win streak and be a contender here pretty soon. But that's if he can get past Kelvin Gastelum, the vet that's been around for a while. But you know, he has conditioning problems. You know, he's had weight issues in the past, and with being in Mexico City with the elevation and stuff like that, you got to be careful. So let's see what kind of shape Kelvin comes in on. I heard a lot of people talking shit already about the way he looks in his pictures. But I mean, that might not mean shit, really. Who knows? But we'll see what kind of condition he comes in and if he's ready to go. So that's that, and that moves us over to the co-main, which I feel like is going to be a damn good fight. Manuel Torres, always getting into wars, versus Drew Dober, does the same shit. Both these guys will take a punch to give a punch, and this should be a fun fight in the lightweight division. Manuel Torres, 15-3 overall, 3-1 in the UFC, 7-1 by KO TKO, 7-2 by submission, and 1-0 by decision. He is coming off a loss, but Drew Dober's 27-14 overall. That's a lot of fucking fights. 13-10 in the UFC. That's a lot of fights in just the UFC. 23 fights in the UFC. He's been around forever. And he's only 36. That's what's crazy. 11-3 in KO TKOs, 9-4 by sub, and 7-7 by decision. That's a weird record by decision. But he's on a 2-fight losing streak. It almost seems like Pyfer versus Gastelum should have been the co-main. So that's a little bit weird. But that's okay. I still feel like this is going to be a pretty fun fight. For the most part, we got Torres showing off some skills there with the elbow and the uppercut. He's coming off a loss to Ignacio Bahamondes, which is a fucking crazy. That's a tough fight. That was at the it was a really good fight at the Sphere, where he got stopped with strikes there in the first round by Bahamondes. Before that, he was on a 3-fight win streak. With wins over Chris Duncan, Nicholas Moda, and Frank Camacho, after coming off the Contender Series win that he got there by TKO. 3 performance of the night bonuses for him in those 3 wins before he lost to Bahamondes. So again, he's one of those guys that it will come after you and will take punches to give punches, and that's what can make this fun fight. Drew Dober, though, is a dog as well. He may look like a little pretty boy, but he can fucking fight. 13-10 in the UFC. It's crazy. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, but those are losses to Jean Silva and Renato Moicano. Those are fucking tough opponents. It was a doctor stoppage by Jean Silva because of a cut in round 3, and then a unanimous decision loss to Renato. Both of those last year. In 23, he got a win over Ricky Glenn by TKO. He lost to Matt Frivola before that. So again, it's like win or lose by stoppages, really. He was on a 3-fight win streak with wins over King Green, Rafael Alves, and Terrence McKinney. All finishes in those 3 fights back in 22. So, you know, he can get on streaks. He can put together wins. He's exciting, and fucking both these guys come out ready to bang, and that's what makes it a potentially really fun fight. This could be like fight of the night potential, but they have to go up against the main event, and that is Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. This should be a damn good fight too. Both these guys have gone to war with Alexandre Pantoja, the current champ. So that says a lot for both of them. And they're both in the flyweight division. Even though Steve Erceg has 2 losses in a row, those were tough fights against tough opponents, Kai Kara-France and Alexandre Pantoja. And again, he almost beat Pantoja. He made that one mistake in the 5th round, going for that takedown, and that's what cost him the fight. Otherwise, he could have been the champ at the moment. So, and then Kai Kara-France just hits fucking hard. So it's hard to blame him for losing that one. But Moreno's 22-8 overall, 10-5 in the UFC. Never been KO'd or TKO'd, has 5 wins there. Never been submitted, but has 11 wins there. And then he's 6-8 by decision. So that's his weak category there. He is coming off a win. Steve Erceg is 12-3 overall, 3-2 in the UFC. 2-1 by KO TKO, 6-0 by sub, 4-2 by decision on a 2-fight losing streak. Like I said, look at the submission category though. I mean, neither one of them have ever been submitted, and they both have pretty good amount of fights on in the win column there for them. So that makes things a bit interesting. Let's take a look at Brandon Moreno. He's coming off a win over Amir Abazi, and actually that was a pretty fun fight, and that was a pretty impressive win for him. After losing 2 in a row to Pantoja and Brandon Royval, both split decisions. That's how you know he's losing by split decision and winning by unanimous decision. So even his decision fights are, you could just kind of tell if you know who you're looking at for a fighter. You can just kind of tell how he fights. He had a couple wins in a row before those 2 losses, and that was over Kai Kara-France and Davison Figueiredo. And a lot of stoppages, doctor stoppages, and stoppages from strikes. And so, dude, Pantoja it's littered with performance of the night bonuses. He was a champ for a while. He was a pretty fun champ too. Like, everybody loved him, and he had a lot of great fights. So, including this last one against Amir Albazi, where he beat him up pretty bad. And, he had a great fight against Pantoja as well. Split decision. I mean, it was pretty damn close. So, but Steve Erceg, I think his fight against Pantoja was even closer than Brandon Moreno's. And, just that one slip up, man. I know I keep saying that, but it's because it's true. I mean, Erceg was the most unassuming guy. I was like, okay, he's got 3 wins in a row, and now he's getting a title shot. Like, that's crazy. With wins, his 3 wins in a row were David Dovrak, Alessandro Costa, and Matt Schnell. It's not like he had like huge names that he beat, and yet he got a title shot, on a whim. And it was a damn good fight for him. And I feel like he would have won if he didn't make that small mistake. So he put up a great fight against Pantoja. Unfortunately, he got finished in the first round against Kai Kara-France. But, that does not take away from the skills and the potential that Steve Erceg has, being that he's only had so many fights in the UFC. 5 fights in the UFC. I mean, he's not that old. He's only 29, so he's just getting into his prime. So I feel like he's got a lot to offer, has a lot of potential, and if he gets a big win over somebody like Brandon Moreno, I mean, that can only catapult him to something better. So, and it's hard to get a good win and look good against Brandon Moreno, but I feel like these guys are a good matchup for each other, and I feel like we're in for a good fight here. So let's see what they have to offer us. Let's see if it's an early finish or if it's just an all-out war that goes all 5 rounds or goes into the deep rounds. Either way, I feel like we're going to be entertained by this one. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's take a look at the fight wheel and see what the fight wheel has for us this week as far as predictions. And you know what? I forgot to look. Actually, I have them here. So let's look at how the wheel did last week with picks for the main card. So I just do the fight wheel for the main card fights instead of me picking, because I'm so bad at picking and betting. I started doing the fight wheel. So let's see. It's just a little fun thing to do at the end of the show, just to, to make picks and see how well it does. So far, it hadn't done so well. It had a losing record for the first 2 weeks. So last week we had Gunnar Nelson. That was a loss. Tainara, that's a win. So 1-1. Jan winning. That's a loss. So 1-2. Nathaniel Wood winning. That's good. So 2-2. Chris Duncan winning. That's 3-2. And then Sean Brady winning. Holy shit, the first winning record for the wheel. 4-2, not bad, because it's usually only 2 wins and the rest are losses in the past couple weeks before this. Oh, I guess I need to hold on to this. All right, so let's see what the wheel has for us this week. I'm gonna erase these and see how well we do this week. Let's get the wheel going here. Where am I at? I should be ready already, and I'm not. 1 second. There we go. Fight wheel. Interact. All right, let's give it a spin. Let's see who we get first here. Reinaldo Rodriguez for the first fight of the night on the wheel. Hold on. Where the hell did it go? Oh, there it is. Oh, nope. Oh, there it is. I lost the wheel. Okay, so Reinaldo Rodriguez, let me write that down. Let's remove that one. And then who is Kevin Borjas is his opponent. So we'll take Rodriguez off of there. We'll take Borjas off of there. And let's spin and see who we get next. Who will be the second winner of the night? Oh shit, main event right away. Brandon Moreno getting the win over Steve Erceg. According to the wheel, fight wheel prediction, Brandon Moreno gets the win in the main event over Steve Erceg. Let's remove him and Erceg. Oh shit. There we go. All right, let's see who's next. This should be interesting for a couple of these fights. Moreno already being the first one. Manuel Torres getting the win over Drew Dober, right? Yep. And I can see that because that fight can kind of go either way. So that's a toss-up fight. So not a bad pick there. I could see it going either way. Let's see who's next. A few more fights left for the fight wheel predictions for UFC Mexico. Big Joe Pyfer getting the win over Kelvin Gastelum. Pyfer for the win over Kelvin Gastelum. All right, 2 more fights. Let's go. Let's see what the fight wheel has for the last 2 fights. David Martinez getting a win over Simon Oliveira. And that leads us to the last fight. Let me delete Oliveira. There we go. All right, let's see who wins between Raul Rosas Jr. and Vince Morales. Looks like Rosas, maybe? Yup. Chiwiwis getting the win for UFC Mexico. All right, there's your fight wheel predictions. For UFC Mexico, we got Reinaldo Rodriguez beating Kevin Borjas. We got Brandon Moreno beating Steve Erceg in the main event. We got Manuel Torres beating Drew Dober in the co-main. We got Joe Pyfer beating Kelvin Gastelum. David Martinez beating Simon Oliveira. And Raul Rosas Jr. beating Vince Morales, according to the fight wheel. So we'll see how accurate the wheel is this week. 4-2 coming off of last week. So we had a winning record last week with the fight wheel. I should have bet on those. But I'm waiting for when the day that the wheel picks completely correct. But that'll be tough. So there we go. That's it for tonight. UFC Mexico should be fun. Let's check out the start times. Looks like main event start time is at 4:00 p.m. Arizona time. And the prelims start at 1 p.m. So this is happening in Mexico City. Don't miss it. Saturday. This Saturday. What date is that? March 29th. Yeah. So don't miss those fights. Enjoy March Madness. Right now, U of A is down 44-56. So that's not good. I might have to turn this off and stop watching it and hope for a good turnaround. But you know, these games always go down to the last few minutes in March Madness, especially. There's hardly ever big blowouts, so we have a chance. So let's hope for the best. That's it for me. Appreciate you guys joining in. My mom in the chat, DJ Magix, thank you. And Philip in the chat as well. Appreciate you guys for the support. Appreciate everybody else that comes back and watches this later. That's it for me. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Continue enjoying March Madness. Stay away from being sick. I know I'm going to try my best to. Glad I'm not sick anymore. That's it. I'm out. Take it easy. Cheers. Have a good night. Peace.